The global energy map is being redrawn overnight, and while the world watches the skies over the Middle East, a silent and massive shift of power is taking place at sea. The closure of the Strait of Hormuz has triggered a catastrophic energy crisis across Asia. But out of this chaos, one nation is reaping a historic windfall without firing a single shot. Today, we are going to look at how the conflict in the Middle East has inadvertently handed control of Asia's energy survival straight to Moscow, and why the economic fallout is already devastating economies from Pakistan to Taiwan. We start at the epicenter. Recent strikes on Iran have sparked a chain reaction that has effectively closed the Strait of Hormuz to commercial shipping, largely due to the complete withdrawal of insurance coverage for vessels. But the truly crippling blow landed on March 2nd. Iranian drones struck Qatar's Ras Laffan industrial city. Qatar immediately declared force majeure. In an instant, 20% of the global supply of liquefied natural gas vanished from the market. Add to this the fact that Saudi Arabia, Iraq, the United Arab Emirates, and Kuwait had already preemptively lowered their collective oil output by 6.7 million barrels a day. 6% of global supply was erased before the shooting even started. The immediate result across the Asian continent is a brutal economic phenomenon known as demand destruction. When prices soar or supply vanishes entirely, vulnerable nations are forced to simply shut down their economies. Look at South Asia. Pakistan, which historically relies on Qatar for 99% of its liquefied natural gas, is facing total industrial paralysis. Fertilizer plants are shutting down nationwide because they literally cannot get the feed gas to run their operations. Retail fuel prices in Pakistan have spiked by 20%, leading to panic at the pumps as massive lines form. Neighboring Bangladesh is in the exact same boat, forced to shut down domestic fertilizer production and turning off streetlights during the holy month of Ramadan just to keep the power grid from collapsing. India, deeply dependent on the Persian Gulf, is halting fuel exports to conserve whatever stock remains, while gas suppliers invoke force majeure on their domestic industrial contracts. This contagion is not isolated to the poorest nations. The panic has rapidly spread into Southeast Asia. Thailand has ordered government agencies to adopt full work-from-home measures to slash national power demand, while desperate farmers sit in massive queues for diesel, terrified they will miss the crucial rice harvest due in the coming weeks. The Philippines is shortening the work week to save energy. In Singapore, the maritime refueling capital of the world, authorities are actively rationing ship fuel. Even the industrial powerhouses of East Asia are running scared. Japan is halting operational units at power plants to save fuel. Taiwan, the beating heart of the global semiconductor industry, and South Korea are locked in a desperate bidding war for whatever alternative gas shipments they can find to keep their tech factories from going dark. China, sensing the crisis, has quietly ordered its refiners to curb exports, building a protective wall around its domestic stocks. Enter Russia. While Western media frames recent events as Moscow punishing Europe by cutting off gas, the reality is much simpler and entirely driven by brutal market logic. Russia is simply following the money, and the money has moved east because America bombed Iran. Moscow recently announced it is redirecting its gas supplies away from Europe and straight to China, India, Thailand, and the Philippines. Negotiations led by Deputy Prime Minister Novak are already moving massive volumes. In fact, 3 tanker ships have already diverted mid-voyage, turning away from European ports to deliver to Asian buyers who are offering astronomical spot prices. Let us look at the numbers, because the math explains everything. Before late February, European TTF gas was trading around €35 per megawatt hour. By early March, that settled at €52.81, a 50% surge in just a month. But in Asia, the panic is absolute. Asian JKM spot cargoes are trading above $20 per million British thermal units. Bangladesh recently paid a staggering $28.28 for emergency deliveries. The arbitrage, which is the difference between selling gas to Europe under standard contract prices versus selling it to panicking Asian nations at emergency premiums, is the widest it has been since the 2022 energy crisis. Russia knows exactly what it is doing. The European Union is phasing out its gas. Short-term contracts are banned starting in late April. A full liquefied natural gas ban is coming by year-end, and pipeline gas will be phased out by 2027. Russia supplied 13.8 million tons of this gas to Europe recently, but Moscow is not fighting these upcoming bans anymore. They are front-running them. Every single ton of gas that Russia redirects to Asia today locks in a long-term contract at an enormous premium, with buyers who will never pass legislation to kick Russia out of their markets. Now we connect the pieces. You have three enormous energy crises happening simultaneously. Qatar is offline. Hormuz is closed. Desperate Asian buyers are outbidding Europe for every single cargo ship on the ocean. And then there is Russia. Geographically, Russia is the only major energy exporter whose supply chains do not run through the Persian Gulf or the Strait of Hormuz. They are the absolute only producer on Earth right now that can deliver massive energy volumes to Asia without navigating a war zone. Russia did not plan this. They did not need to. Their structural and geographic position delivers this massive windfall completely automatically. For every single dollar that Brent crude rises above $70, it generates roughly $1 billion in additional annual revenue for the Russian state budget. The massive premiums on spot prices multiply that number even further. The current conflict in the Middle East is the most profitable event for the Russian economy since the initial price spikes of 2022, and Moscow is collecting this wealth without firing a single weapon in the region. Perhaps the most telling indicator of how desperate the situation has become came on March 6, when the United States Treasury issued a 30-day waiver allowing India to purchase Russian crude directly. This is the American government quietly acknowledging what the global market already knew. With the Strait of Hormuz effectively closed and Qatari gas offline, Russian energy is no longer a sanctioned commodity that the world can afford to avoid. It is literally the only commodity available to keep Asia running. Europe is watching its gas prices surge 50% because a war it did not start closed a strait it does not border, redirecting cargoes it was already losing to buyers who can pay more. The tankers turning east right now are carrying Russian molecules to whoever offers the highest price. Asia, backed by deep sovereign balance sheets and driven by sheer economic desperation, will outbid Europe every single time. Russia is not weaponizing energy in this scenario. The war itself is weaponizing the energy. Russia is simply handing out the product and collecting the receipt. Subscribe for more content like this.